This hadith is the famous hadith of Fatima binti Qais, one of the famous sahabiyat. She narrates, and this hadith is in Sahih Muslim, that one day we were sitting in our house when we heard the crier running through the city saying, As-salatu jami'ah, as-salatu jami'ah. As-salatu jami'ah is how the Prophet ﷺ would call the Sahaba to the masjid when there was an issue other than the 5 salawats. The adhan is not given. You have an announcement. Come to the musalla, come to the musalla. That's how they would do that. As-salatu jami'ah simply means come to the musalla. That's what it means now. Even though it technically means come and pray, but the meaning here is come to the masjid. So, Fatima says, I rushed to the masjid to see what was happening, and I prayed with the Prophet ﷺ, and I was in the first line of the women, right behind the men. In her eagerness to hear what the Prophet ﷺ would say, she was in the first saf of the women behind the men. Point she's trying to say is, I heard directly everything that I'm about to tell you. So after we finished praying, the Prophet ﷺ went on the mimbar and sat down. And he said, let everybody remain where he is. Nobody move. Let everybody remain where he is. Do you know why I called you? They said, Allah and His Messenger know best. He said, I did not call you today to give you an advice or a lecture to cause you to cry or to fear Allah. That's not the reason. Maw'idah, no khatira today. I didn't call you. But rather, I came to tell you what Tamim ad-Dari came to inform me. Tamim ad-Dari. Who is Tamim ad-Dari? I have a lecture about him online very briefly, about one of the, my series about the Sahaba. Tamim ad-Dari was one of the few Sahabi who was a Christian and then embraced Islam. The majority of Sahaba were pagans. Very, very few were Jewish or Christian when they embraced Islam. Very few. And of them is Tamim ad-Dari. So he's one of those group of Sahaba who was Ahli Kitab, and he embraces Islam, and of them is Tamim ad-Dari. And so Tamim ad-Dari came to me embracing Islam, and he told me a story that happened to him many, many years ago. Now, Tamim ad-Dari is from one of the tribes up north, and those tribes were seafaring tribes. They would ride the ocean. The Quraysh were a non-seafaring tribe. The Quraysh despised the ocean. The Quraysh did not like riding on the ocean. And that's why the Quran is full of references. فَإِذَا رَكِبُوا فِي الْفُلْكِ. The Quraysh did not like the ocean. And few of the Qurayshis rode on the ocean. And that's why when our Prophet ﷺ saw a dream where some of his own Sahaba were riding the oceans, conquering other lands, he laughed and he said, I saw my own ummah shall be riding on the waves like kings, riding horses and steeds, galloping, and they shall be conquering, oceans. And so Tamim ad-Dari, he came to embrace Islam. And he came in the 9th year of the Hijrah, and he came to in those days they sent the delegations to embrace Islam. And when he came, he told the Prophet ﷺ about something that happened to him many, many, many years ago. He said, Ya Rasulullah, let me tell you an interesting story. Let me tell you something that when I was an earlier young man, a Christian, this is what happened to me. So when he told this story, the Prophet ﷺ then called the Sahaba and said, here is Tamim ad-Dari, let me tell you what he told me. That's the hadith here, okay? Now, it's a very long hadith, and you will find it. Where will you find it, guys? Online. I gave you the reference right now. Sahih Muslim. The story goes as follows, that Tamim ad-Dari says when he was a younger man, that he was in a ship of around 30 people from the tribe of Judham and Lukham. These are Christian Arab tribes up north, and he was from those tribes. And once a very severe storm came in the ocean, and for 30 days they were lost at sea. After there were 30 days, they were lost at sea. They had no clue where they were until they came to a faraway, ocean that they could not recognize, and they saw an island in the distance. So some of them, Tamim ad-Dari and a few of them, took the smaller boat to go get some water, to go get some food. So every large boat has that small boat to go in. So they took that smaller boat to go to that island, and when they landed on that island, they met a very terrifying animal. A beast that could speak to them, a dabba that could speak to them. And we'll mention the dabba when we come to one of the 10 signs. The dabba that could come to them. And this beast was unrecognizable. Like, call him what? Bigfoot or something. Although the hadith did not describe him. It simply says, a beast that's very hairy. just nothing but hair, and could speak. And Tamim saw this and his people, and they were terrified. And the beast said, come with me. I'm going to take you to my owner or my master. And they went to this island, and they went to this cave where they saw a man larger than any man they have ever seen. And the man was tied up in a more severe manner than any man they have ever seen. And the man then began to ask a number of questions. And it goes like, 10 questions or so. I'm not going to go into all of them. And they were so terrified, they just responded one after the other. And until in the end, the last question was, of the questions, the Tabariya sea, is it still there? This well, is it giving water? This land, is it still cultivated? And they answered yes, yes, yes. And always the answer was, a time will come when there shall be no water in that lake. A time will come when this well will be dry. A time will come when this land that you consider to be very beautiful and green will be completely barren. So he's giving predictions in the future. Then he says that, has the Ummi prophet been sent amongst the Arabs? Has that prophet been sent amongst the Arabs? And Tamim al-Dari at this time was a Christian, but he was an Arab. He knows the Prophet has come. So he says, yes, he has been sent. And he has come out from Mecca, and he has settled in Yathrib. Because he didn't call it Medina, because only Muslims called it Medina. For those 10 years when Islam was spreading, Yathrib and Medina were the same name, as you know, the same city. And the Muslims called it Medina, and the Munafiqun and the pagans called it the old name Yathrib. And that is why we are not allowed as Muslims to call it Yathrib unless we describe it that this is the pre-Islamic name. In any case, so because the Prophet said they call it Yathrib and it is Medina. They call it Yathrib, so we do not call it Yathrib as a name. In any case, so Tamim al-Dari said he has settled in Medina. The Dajjal says, did the Arabs fight him? They say yes. So he says, who won? They say, sometimes he wins and sometimes the Arabs wins, meaning the Uhud. Uhud they say was a loss, even though Uhud was not a loss from our perspective. And I will tell you about me. I am the Masih. And it is only a matter of time before I am let loose. And when I am let loose, I shall visit every single city on earth in 40 days, except for Mecca and Medina, for they are made haram for me. Every time I come to them, the angels will stop me.